Your dog has been offering you the most profound compliment it knows how to give, and every single time, you have been pulling away. There is a 7-year-old golden retriever named Caspian who does something every evening after dinner that his owner, Marco, a recently retired electrician who now spends most of his days not quite knowing what to do with his hands, has never once stopped to interpret. Marco worked 40 years with those hands. 40 years of voltage and wire and the particular satisfaction of a job that was finished when it was finished. And now the days stretch open and strange. But Caspian always knows when Marco has settled into the couch, and every evening, without fail, Caspian walks over, lowers his heavy golden head, and takes Marco's thick, weathered hand gently into his mouth. Marco always laughs softly. He always lets it happen. He has never once understood what it means. Most people do not. When a dog opens its mouth and holds a human hand between its teeth, the first thing our nervous system does is panic. Something ancient and wired deep into us whispers, "Teeth, danger, pull away." And so we do. We pull back. We say no. We correct the dog with total confidence that we are doing the right thing. And in doing so, we refuse the single most vulnerable thing a dog is capable of offering. Here is what is actually happening in that moment. The dog is not biting you. It is not testing you. It is not poorly trained or out of control. It is performing one of the most neurologically complex, physiologically demanding acts in the entire animal kingdom. It is choosing to take the most destructive tool its body possesses and point it at you with absolute, trembling gentleness. It is saying, with the only language it has, that you are safe, that you are family, that it trusts you with the thing it could use to hurt you. To understand why this matters, you have to start somewhere that might surprise you. You have to start with the jaw itself, with what it is actually capable of. Because the velvet jaw means nothing until you understand what it is restraining. The canine skull was not designed for gentleness. The muscles that drive the jaw in a dog, the masseter, the temporalis, the pterygoids, are built for one ancient purpose: to grip, tear, and crush. These are not polite muscles. They anchor to the ridged crest along the top of the skull, and they pull with the kind of force that most of us have never been close to in our lives. The average dog generates bite forces that comfortably exceed what a human jaw is capable of, even at its maximum. For larger breeds, the numbers become almost impossible to believe. 750 pounds per square inch. Bone does not withstand 750 pounds per square inch. And yet, Caspian holds Marco's hand without leaving so much as a single red mark. Think about that for a moment. That is not passivity. That is not an accident. Every single second that jaw rests soft around that hand, something extraordinary is happening inside Caspian's brain. Something that required years to learn and requires constant, invisible effort to maintain. The story of how a dog learns to hold that kind of power in check, it begins earlier than you might expect, and it begins with pain. When puppies are very young, all they know is that their mouths are the primary way they experience the world. They bite everything. They bite each other constantly, and because their tiny teeth are needle-sharp, when one puppy bites another too hard, the one who is bitten does something that changes everything. It yelps, and it stops playing. That is it. That is the entire lesson. Pain caused the thing they wanted most, the warmth and joy of play, to disappear. And so the puppy's rapidly developing brain begins to learn, gradually and through repetition, that pressure is a dial, not a switch. That gentleness is the price of connection. That the jaw must learn to speak quietly, or not be heard at all. This process is called acquired bite inhibition, and that is not simply the dog deciding to be careful. It is the physical rewiring of the nervous system. It is the brain building new neural pathways between sensation and restraint. It is one of the most sophisticated pieces of motor learning in the entire animal kingdom, and it happens in the messiest, most chaotic way imaginable, in a pile of squirming puppies who are figuring it out together. But what makes the velvet jaw possible at the level of pure physics, the part that science has only recently begun to understand, is something far smaller and far stranger than anything you might imagine. Your dog's teeth are not just teeth, they are listening. Every tooth in your dog's jaw is not fused to the bone. It sits inside a cushioned socket, suspended by a thin web of living tissue called the periodontal ligament. And buried inside that ligament is something so small and so quietly astonishing that it changes the entire way you will think about what happens when your dog holds your hand. These are periodontal mechanoreceptors, microscopic biological sensors. Strain gauges so precise that they detect forces measured in fractions of a Newton, forces smaller than the weight of a single grape. The moment your dog's tooth makes contact with your skin, these sensors fire. They send an immediate, high-resolution report directly to the brain. Texture, direction, pressure magnitude, rate of change, all of it, instantly. And a specific class of these sensors, the slowly adapting ones, do not stop reporting the moment contact is made. They keep firing. They send a continuous, unbroken stream of data to the brain for every single second that your hand remains in your dog's mouth. Think about what that means. It means your dog is not simply deciding to be gentle and then hoping for the best. It means there is a live conversation happening between the roots of the teeth and the brain every moment the jaw is closed. It means the brain receives a constant signal saying, "This much pressure, no more." And when a human moves or shifts unexpectedly, the sensors detect the change in force immediately, and the brain adjusts, in real time, faster than thought. There is also a reflex built into this system that has a name almost too beautiful for what it does. It is called the periodontal masseteric reflex. What it does is this. The moment the sensors in the teeth register the soft yield of human skin, they send a signal that causes the massive jaw-closing muscles to stop closing. It is a biological emergency brake. Automatic, instantaneous, not a choice the dog consciously makes. A reflex the dog's body makes on behalf of the choice the dog already made when it decided to come to you. Caspian does not consciously think about all of this when he lays his head in Marco's lap each evening. He does not think, "I must now modulate my bite force via periodontal feedback." But his body does. Every sensor, every reflex, every invisible adjustment runs on its own. Because Caspian made one decision, long ago and in his deepest self. Marco is safe. Marco is mine. And everything else follows from that. There is a dog somewhere in your neighborhood right now, pressing her nose against a cold window. She cannot see anything yet. The car is still 2 streets away. But she knows. She knows the sound of the engine, the particular rhythm of the tires, the specific way the air pressure shifts before that door opens. She has been waiting since the moment you left, and the waiting is the truest thing she knows how to do. Now here is where this gets almost dizzying. Because it is not just the sensors in the teeth doing this work. There is something bigger. Something that sits at the base of the brain and holds the whole operation together. The cerebellum is often described in textbooks as the part of the brain responsible for balance and basic motor control. That description is like describing a great symphony orchestra as a group of people who make noise with instruments. Technically true, almost entirely wrong. The cerebellum contains more than half of all the neurons in the entire brain. It receives a constant flood of data from the jaw muscles, from the inner ear, from the periodontal sensors, from the motor cortex. And its job is not simply to execute movement. Its job is to perfect it, to take the intention to move and translate that intention into something so precisely calibrated that it is almost indistinguishable from a miracle. When your dog takes your hand, the cerebellum is calculating the exact tension required in the masseter muscle to hold the jaw still. Not just still enough, exactly still enough. The jaw must maintain contact with the skin without any pressure. It must hover, in a sense, against the softness of your hand. It must remain firm enough to be felt and light enough to cause no mark. Research into motor learning has shown something remarkable. This kind of skill, this precise, repeatable, infinitely refined coordination of jaw movement, physically changes the structure of the cerebellum over time. The connections between neurons are literally altered by thousands of gentle interactions. The velvet jaw is not just a behavior, it is an architecture, built slowly, over years, through the decision to be gentle again and again and again. Caspian has held Marco's hand gently every night for 6 years. Every single one of those evenings is written into his brain, not as memory exactly, as form, as shape, as the particular irreversible way his nervous system has been sculpted by love. But there is one more layer to this, one more question that changes everything. Why is the dog doing this at all? What is the gesture actually for? Because the mechanics tell you how, they do not yet tell you what it means. And what it means reaches back so much further in time than you might expect. 30,000 years ago, there were no dogs. There were only wolves. And wolves, in the silence of their packs, did something that we have been witnessing in our living rooms ever since without recognizing it for what it is. They groomed each other. Not for vanity, not idly. With the tiny, precise front incisors, wolves would part the thick fur of a packmate and carefully, delicately nibble out whatever should not be there. Debris, parasites, the small, persistent irritants that a wolf cannot reach on its own face, its own neck, its own shoulders. This behavior, in the formal language of animal behavior science, is called allogrooming, and it required 2 things in equally essential measure: skill and absolute trust. Presenting your neck to the teeth of a wolf is not a small gesture. It is the largest gesture possible. Because allogrooming between wolves is not just hygiene, it is a declaration. It says, "I am safe with you. You are safe with me. We are bound to each other in the most physical, immediate, and undeniable way I know." The ritual predates words. It predates almost everything we think of as communication. It is older than any language humans have ever used, and it survives completely intact in the animal who now sleeps at the foot of your bed. There is a very specific version of this behavior that has a nickname that makes it sound trivial: cobbing. Sometimes called the corn on the cob nibble. It is when a dog takes a sleeve or a forearm and begins to nibble rapidly with those small front teeth, a quick, chattering motion that seems almost nervous or frantic to a human who does not know what it is. It is not nervous. It is intimate. It is your dog saying, "You belong to my pack. You are the one I groom. You are the one I cannot reach the places I cannot reach without. You are mine to take care of." Marco first noticed Caspian doing this one evening when he had fallen asleep in the chair with his flannel shirt sleeve hanging loose. He woke up to find Caspian gently nibbling the cuff with the focused, rhythmic attention of someone doing something important. Marco laughed and told his daughter about it on the phone later that night, like it was a funny thing that happened. He did not yet know that Caspian had chosen him. That this is what choosing looks like in the oldest language still spoken on Earth. The chemical reality beneath all of this is where it stops being merely beautiful and becomes something close to staggering. When your dog engages in this kind of gentle mouthing, this slow holding, this careful cobbing, two brains release the same chemical simultaneously. Yours and your dog's. Oxytocin, the same hormone that floods through a mother in the first moments after her child is born. The same rush of recognition and love and belonging that the human body reserves for its most irreducible bonds. Your dog's body triggers it. Your body responds. And then the two of you, sitting in that quiet room, are bathed in the same invisible chemistry. Your heart rate begins to slow. Not because you decided to relax, because your body is responding to a signal older than civilization. A signal that says, you are with one of yours. You are home. And this is where it gets quietly extraordinary. Because it does not stop with the emotion. It goes into the body itself. Studies measuring the physical effects of this kind of gentle, tactile contact between humans and dogs have found measurable drops in cortisol, the primary chemical your body produces when it is under stress. As cortisol drops, the nervous system shifts. The part of you that has been running on high alert eases back. Blood pressure follows. Breathing slows. And here is the part that still feels slightly impossible, even knowing it is real. Human and canine heart rates begin to synchronize during sustained, calm contact. Marco does not know any of this. He just knows that the evenings feel better now than they did in the first year after he retired, when the house felt too large and the days felt unstructured, and something he could not name felt slightly wrong. He knows that something about sitting with Caspian's weight against his leg and Caspian's mouth soft around his hand makes the day feel like it ended properly. He is not imagining it. His body is not lying to him. His dog figured out how to reach across every boundary between species and regulation and language, and is simply, chemically, making him okay. But there is one final thing to understand. One piece of this that you may not have yet thought about, and it is the piece that, once you see it, you cannot unsee. It is about what it takes, truly takes, for a dog to offer you this at all. Here is what nobody tells you. Not every dog does this. Dogs who have been hurt, dogs who have learned that proximity leads to pain, dogs whose trust was broken before they had the language to protect it. They do not offer the velvet jaw. They cannot. The gesture requires something that cannot be performed under duress. It requires what researchers call intact inhibitory control, a neurological system that is healthy, calm, and unafraid. A dog whose brain has never had to harden itself against the people it lives with. When a dog with a difficult history learns, slowly and over time, to take a hand gently into its mouth, behavioral scientists mark it. They note it. Because it means something specific about the internal state of the animal. It means the nervous system has healed enough to be vulnerable again. It means the dog has decided, through some quiet interior process that we can measure but not fully enter, that you are worth the risk of gentleness. Gentleness is always a risk, for any creature. Studies examining inhibitory control in dogs have found that animals who demonstrate high levels of aggression or reactivity show consistent deficits in precisely the self-regulation required for this behavior. They cannot hold back. Not because they do not want to, but because the circuit that makes restraint possible has been compromised, often by stress, often by fear, often by the accumulated weight of moments that taught them that softness was punished. What this means, when you sit with it, is that a dog who has never known that kind of harm, a dog who comes to you and lays its mouth around your hand, is showing you the fullest possible expression of a nervous system that has been allowed to remain whole. You did that. The safety of your home did that. The consistency of your presence did that. Think about a dog waiting by the door. Just waiting. An ordinary image. The kind of thing you have walked past 1,000 times without stopping to feel it. But consider what is actually happening there. The dog does not understand that you will be back in an hour. It does not know that you are at the grocery store, or at work, or sitting in traffic thinking about something else entirely. It simply knows that you left and you have not yet returned. And it waits. Without resentment. Without the small, cold calculation of whether the waiting is worth it. It waits the way water waits in a valley, because there is no other direction it knows to flow. And when you come back, something happens inside that animal's body that takes your breath away if you let it. The same invisible flood of love chemicals, the same synchronization, the same ancient, wordless recognition of the one who belongs to them. All of it, for you. Not for the idea of you, not for what you provide, for you specifically. The exact pitch of your voice, the particular rhythm of your footsteps, the way you smell at the end of a long day, which to your dog is not unpleasant at all, but is, in fact, one of the most comforting things in its world. Caspian knows when Marco is sad before Marco does. He has learned the particular way Marco's body settles differently on the couch when something is heavy in him. And on those evenings, Caspian does not come and nudge or bark or perform. He just comes and lays his head in Marco's lap and closes his eyes and stays. He offers his presence the way someone who is loved deeply for a long time knows to offer it. Without fanfare, just there. Marco has not cried in a very long time. He is not sure exactly how long. There is something about men of his generation, something about the way 40 years of work shaped him, that made him put that particular reflex somewhere he stopped being able to find it. But one evening, after his granddaughter's birthday, after a day that was full of good things and people he loves, he sat down, and Caspian came to him and took his hand. And something about the quiet, careful weight of it, this animal who asks for nothing except to be near him, something broke loose very gently, just for a moment. Just enough. He is not sure Caspian noticed. But of course Caspian noticed. Caspian notices everything. Picture Caspian tonight. Marco has gone to bed, but Caspian has not followed yet. He is standing at the window in the dark living room, the way dogs do sometimes, watching something only he can see. The house is quiet. The lamp is off, and there is something in the way he stands there, still and golden and completely himself, that is both ordinary and impossible to look at for too long. He is 7 years old. In human terms, that sounds young. In dog terms, it is already the middle of a life, and every single day of that life has been shaped by one man, one voice, one specific smell and presence and pair of hands that he has chosen, out of all the possible choices the world offered him, to love with everything he has. Your life is long and complicated. It holds decades of history and grief and joy and the particular accumulated weight of being a person in the world. You carry things your dog will never understand, cannot understand, because the translation does not exist. Your dog does not know about your mortgage or your regrets or the conversation you should have had years ago with someone you can no longer reach. Your dog does not know about the version of yourself you thought you would be by now. But your dog knows you, not the story you tell, you. And this is the part that asks for a moment of stillness to receive it properly. Your dog's entire life is built inside yours. Every sunrise it has ever watched, every fear it has ever felt, every moment of joy it has ever experienced, every night it has slept, and every morning it has woken up, all of it happened inside the shape of your presence. You are not a chapter in your dog's story. You are the whole book, the only book, the one it reads and rereads and finds new things in every single day. That is not a small thing to be. That is almost too large to hold. And the time is shorter than any of us want it to be. This is the part that asks for courage to look at directly. Dogs do not live as long as we do. This is not news, but it is the kind of thing we push to the back of the room and refuse to examine until the day we have no choice. And by then, we sometimes wish we had spent more evenings simply present, more mornings without our phones, more moments where we felt the weight of the jaw, soft and warm around our hand, and understood what we were being told. So here is what I am asking you to do, not tomorrow, in the next 60 seconds. Find your dog. If your dog is in another room, go there. If your dog is already beside you, that is not an accident. Sit down at their level, not above them, with them, and place your hand flat and open against their side. Feel the warmth there. Feel the breath moving in and out. And then, just breathe. Slowly, deliberately, because the science says they will begin to match you, that their breath and your breath will find each other, that two nervous systems, separated by 30,000 years of evolution, will sync in the dark, warm air between you. Let that be a ceremony. Let it be something you do on purpose. Tell me in the comments, does your dog do the velvet jaw? The cobbing, the soft holding, the gentle mouth around a wrist? I want to know your dog's name and the first time you realized it was something more than a quirk. Because I think we have a room full of people here who see their dogs the way dogs deserve to be seen. And that room is the whole point of why we are all here together. Subscribe if you want to stay. We are just getting started. And next time, we are going to talk about something that happens every single night while you are asleep. Something your dog does in the dark that you have never witnessed, and that will change the way you look at the foot of your bed forever. The door is still open. Do not leave yet.